Welcome to the class. Today it's our 10th class, and today we are going to continue what we have done from yesterday class, right? So maybe the yesterday class maybe seems to be hard, but it's very simple, right? So when you are practicing these things, it will be very easy, right? So I have to tell you one thing before we start the class, right? So I have to tell you one thing, right? So basically, this is not limited to, right? Uh, we design the communication of robots, and we learn many things, right? In our class, we learn many things, right? So let's say as an example, we learned about how to, yesterday we learned automatic water tank level indicator system, right? Car reverse taking system and all the kinds of steps we learned, right? But you can't limit yourself, right? So in the class, I learned only the car reverse taking system, right? So you can't say like that because what we learned was because we learned the basic things only, right? So that means we learned the theoretical and the basic things, right? So you have to think your own, right? So you have to think your own. How can we make another circuits, another projects, another inventions from what we have learned so far, right? That is what your mindset has to be, right? Because uh, we can't continue the classes for tons of classes, right? So each and every project we can't do in classes, right? So within these 2 months you can grab the knowledge, right? So you can grab the basic knowledge, that means the foundation, right? After the foundation is done, you can make several kinds of projects, right? So you can make whatever the circuit you like, right? So by using Arduino, you can make it, right? So you have to think, right? While you are inventing new things, you have to think that your invention should give actual solution to a existing problem, right? So if there is any existing problem, right, in your day-to-day life activities, you have to think about the problem and you have to bring a new solution, right? That is what you have to do, right? So you can't limit yourself, right? You have to think about how can we manage, how can we create new things, how can we invent new things. That is what you have to think, right? Because we learned the basic thing, that means how the ultrasonic sensor works, how can we turn on the LEDs, right? That means you are not limited to the ultrasonic sensor and the LED bulbs, right? Not like that. You are not limited to those components only, right? If you know the basics of how the ultrasonic sensor is working, you can make tons of projects, right? Recently, I saw a small project, right? Basically, uh, the project was for the blind people, right? So whenever the blind people walking, right, with a stick, right, on the stick we have an ultrasonic sensor, right? So if there is any object is present in front of the stick, that means the stick will be giving the sound, that means the alarm system, right? That means the blind person can understand that, oh, okay, there will be an object in front of me, so I have to turn, right? So they can recognize the objects and they can be uh, indicated, right? So those are the simple kinds of inventions you can make, right? So because you are grade 6 to 11 people, I'm giving you some kinds of ideas how can you make new inventions, right? That is very important, right? You have to think while you are in your weekdays, Monday to Friday, until our class. You have to think and come. You also, of course, you can discuss with me, right? So, sir, I have a idea of the existing problem. How can we solve? What are the components we need to use? You can chat with me, right? You can chat with me. You can make things and you can invent new things, right? That is what I expect from you, right? As students, from you. That is what I expect, right? I want to make inventors, right, to contribute Sri Lanka and develop our country, right? That is what I expect. Right, now we'll get into the class. Yesterday we saw about what are the communication, right? Communication exists in our Arduino programs, right? So we learned Bluetooth communication partially, right? So today we are going to fulfill the Bluetooth communication part, right? So that is very simple, right? So I'm going to explain it a little bit about what we have done yesterday, right? So this is the circuit. You can simply take off all these things, right? So you can take off these things, but you can connect the Bluetooth module and then Arduino, right? These two components are enough, because in the 13th pin, right? That means in Arduino's 13th pin, right? It has an inbuilt LED bulb, right? It has an inbuilt LED bulb, right? By pressing the button, you can set up it, right? So this is very simple. You can learn, right? Right. You have to, firstly, you have to connect the circuit, right? Yesterday I show you how to connect, right? You have to give 5 voltage, right, to the Bluetooth module, this one, right? You have to give 5 voltage and 0 voltage. That means ground, right? So then after, it has a TX pin, right? That pin, that means in here, TX pin should be connected to the Arduino's RX pin. In Arduino, we have RX pin, right? Similarly, right, on the Bluetooth module, it has another RX pin. That means another terminal, right? You have to obtain a jumper wire and you have to connect the RX cable to the TX cable to the Arduino. That's all the wiring, right? This is very simple, right? It may be first time if you are seeing this may be difficult, right? So after practicing, this will be the very easiest thing, right? But basically, I have we have one problem, right? Because the Bluetooth connection may not be strong enough, right? So that may be a problem that may you face, right? Those are the difficult things. Not the wirings and all connecting; those things are not difficult, right? We'll see. Right, Bluetooth communication. You know that where we have to open remote XY in our browser, right? And you can simply click start now on the remote XY panel, right? After you click start now, and then you will see this interface, right? This interface you can only have, you have a phone, right? On the phone you can work with the elements, right? You can place on off button, joystick buttons, indicators, and all the other stuffs, right? You can play around with these things, right? You can simply obtain from here and drag there, right? That is very simple, right? After that, yeah, this is design the user interface to operate the system, right? This is what you have to do in remote XY platform, right? Then you have to define the pins and set up the design, right? You have to define the pins, right? In the remote XY panel, you have to define this pin, right? Where it is connected, right? If the button is pressed, what will be the signal that the Arduino should give? That means the Arduino, this is it. Let's say this is Arduino, right? If you press this button, right, you program as if the button is pressed, Arduino's 5th pin should give 5 voltage output, right? That is the program, right? If the button is pressed, you are saying that 5th pin should be turned on. That means the Arduino's 5th pin will give the 5 voltage output. Otherwise, if you don't program that, what will happen? The Arduino will give 0 voltage output in each and every pin, right? In each and every pin, Arduino will give 0 voltage output, right? If you program this will give 5 voltage output. Also, you can program how many times, that means how many time, and what is the time interval it has to give 5 voltage output. You can program each and every thing. That is the programming, right? So that's up. Now you, after that we have to define the pins and set up the design. After you have defined the pins, you have to set up, right? And then you can obtain the source code, right? You know that how to obtain the source code and open it on Arduino. This is what we have done so far yesterday's class, right? Right. Now, without this, you now I'm going to redo it again very quickly, right? So hope you understand little bit more, right? So, right, quickly we have to escape and open our browser and go to remote XY. In remote XY, you can simply click this one. Start now. That's all. Now we have the previous platform. You have to create a new one, right? So drag and drop the icons or controls here. It asks, right? So simply I can drag and drop the switch. That's all, right? Now we have to configure this one, right? So click configure and Bluetooth, right? So click, I'm going to control the Bluetooth, right? Not Wi-Fi or other cloud server communications, right? Then after I have to click this one, right? I am currently using Arduino Mega, so I have to select Arduino here. If you are using Arduino Uno, you have to select this one, right? Now you have to click this one. Now you have to select this one of the component, which one you are using, right? I'm using this one, so I have to click this one. Then I have to select the platform. Of course, I use Arduino IDE, right? After you configured all these things, you can click apply. Now we have set up, right? Now we have to click module interface, right? So you have to select the hardware serial, right? You have to select hardware serial and serial port. Yeah, the serial port pin, right? So what are the serial ports you have connected? That means RX, TX, right? If you are using Arduino Uno, you will have only 0 RX pin. That means 0th pin, right? The first pin will be TX. You don't have these pins, right? If you are using, if you are really, let's say, if you select the Arduino Uno here, click apply, you will not going to have these pins. You can see that, right? Because Arduino Uno is limited to only one communication pin, right? Now I'm going to select Arduino Mega because that is what I'm using currently. Right. Now we have to select this pin. Of course, I connect 0th and first pin, right? Now we have to select 9600 for the Bluetooth communication. That's all, right? Now we have to set up, right? You have to click this one, right? You have to click this one, and you have to scroll down here, and you have to select the element, and you can change it, right? I'm going to change it as a switch A, switch maybe A, indication maybe power on, power off, whatever, right? You can change it, power on, simply you can change it. I'm going to stay it as 1. Now we have to, this is the important, rectangle, these are not important. You have to select this one, snap to pin, right? This is very important. You have to set snap to pin, whatever the pin you have connected, right? So basically, I'm going to connect this 13th pin, right? Because the 13th pin, our Arduino will have inbuilt LED, right? That is why I'm selecting the 13th pin. If I press this button, that means Arduino will give the power to the 13th pin to turn on the LED, right? So if I turn off, Arduino will give 0 voltage. This is how it works, right? Right, now we have configured all the things, right? Now we have to obtain the source code. So simply you can click get source code. That's all out. right? So then you can have the code and simply click this code and drag the code and select all the codes. You can simply click Control plus copy. Of course, you can download the code, right? Here, right. Now we have to open Arduino IDE software. So anyone tried before attending the today's class? Anyone did anyone try?
No, sir.
Simply it is better to try, right? Up to now, this is very easy, right? Up to now, this is very easy because these are simple things. The connection of Bluetooth to the phone is difficult because the connection may be not strong enough. So you will face some kinds of difficulties, right? That means the actual handling part, because these are software parts. This is very easy. While you are handling those components, that may have some issues and errors, right? We'll see that. Right. For that, you have to have a Android mobile phone, right? So currently, I have a problem because I have an iPhone, right? The iPhone is not supporting currently to this Bluetooth module. That is the problem that I have currently, because the HC05 Bluetooth module is not detected by the iPhone, right? So that is the problem I have currently. But you can connect, right? So simply you can connect. Right now we have to select all the components and delete it and paste our code, right? So then we have to save this, right? So save. After you have this as a LED turn on, right? So you can save, right? You can save it, right? After you have saved, you have to click the verify icon, right? So then the code will be verified. Right. Before we get back. Right. Now we have to upload the code. You need to download the code, the remote XY library and setup. Right. So now after that, you can obtain this one, right? So some may have the problem, right? So for that, if you are facing a problem, you have to insert. You have to do one thing, right? So what to do, right? So let's say if anyone is facing a problem, that means the remote library is not included, right? So remote XY library is not included, right? If this is an error coming showing to your Arduino, you have to manually install this library, right? So if anyone facing this problem, I'm going to solve this. If you face, right? So if you don't face this problem, that means nothing, no problem, right? So I'm going to solve this problem if you face, right? So I'm going to, right. What you have to do is you have to go to the libraries, right? Include library, right? And then you have to click manage libraries, right? In the manage libraries, you have to search for the library, right? That means you have to search for the remote XY library, right? So you can simply type remote XY, right? So then there will be library available, right? This is the library, right? So here I have the update button. So, but you will have the install button, right? So you have to install it. I'm going to update this one, right? So click update. Right. Now it is updated. Now we can close this one, right? And we can upload the code, right? Now I'm going to connect this, right? Now I'm going to connect the Arduino board, right? The Arduino board is connected. Now I can upload the code, right? Simply click upload button here and I can upload the code as well, right? It is uploading currently, right? It is done uploading. That means the code is uploaded successfully, right? So, right, this may be a problem. Now we have solved, right? Right, next thing, disconnect the communication pins while you upload, right? You have to disconnect the TX and RX pin either from a Bluetooth module or from an Arduino, right? So you have to remove that one, disconnect the TX and RX. That means the communication pins. You have to disconnect while you are uploading, right? After you have uploaded, right, you have to connect, right? After uploading is done, connect the communication pins TX to RX, RX to TX on the Bluetooth module to Arduino. This is what you have to do, right? You can simply connect, right? Up to now, this is simple, right? Now we have to open up your. Now I'm going to show it to you, right? So now, right, I have a phone, right? So here I'm using iPhone. Of course, I can download, right? So here I'm using iPhone. In iPhone, you have to go to the your app store, right? So you can go to your app store, right? On the app store, you have to uh, search for remote XY, remote XY, right? So then if you click remote XY, then the app will come here, right? This is the app, right? If you are using iPhone, this is the app. Of course, if you are using an Android phone, that may also remote XY software application. You have to download it, right? Now I have already downloaded this one, right? Now you have to open this one, right? Now I'm going to open this app, right? So after you have opened this app, right, the app will be blank, right? Here the app is blank, right? You can see that the app is blank. That means we have designed the on off button, right? But the button is not there, right? In our computer, we design on off button, but currently we don't see the on off button here. Why? Because we didn't connect our Bluetooth module to our phone, right? So we didn't connect our phone to the Bluetooth module setup, Bluetooth module and the Arduino, right? So if we set up it, right? If we set up these things, then there will be a button, right? If you see the button, that means you are successful, right? If you see the button, that means you are successfully completed, right? So in order to see the button, right, you have to go to this one, this plus icon. In also Android phone, you can see, click that, right? So in here, you can't see, right? In here, there are 4 options here, right? So you can go to the Bluetooth LE, uh, Bluetooth LE icon. That means we are going to deal with Bluetooth. So I have to select this one, right? So it asks me to Bluetooth is not enabled, right? So that means you have to turn on your Bluetooth, right? So I'm going to close this message and I'm going to turn on the Bluetooth in our phone. We have to turn it on. Right now, we have to select the Bluetooth. Then it will show that discovered Bluetooth devices. Right. Then if the Bluetooth module is paired with the phone, then it will show here. Right? Of course, you can manually pair. Right. So in Android phone, you can open the Bluetooth. Right. So in your Android phone, you can open the Bluetooth. Right. So Bluetooth option, and then you can. This is here. Right. So here it will appear the Bluetooth module. That means it is named as HC05, HC05 or HC06 icon will show here. Right? Now you have to pair. Right? So you have to pair these two devices. After you have paired successfully, then it will show the message. Not no messages because this panel, that means the remote XY panel, will give you the user interface that you have designed before. Right? Do you understand? If you are obtaining the on-off button that you have designed in your computer and you obtain it automatically, that means you have connected successfully. Right? Now, if you press this on button, it will on. If you press off button, it will off. That is how we control the LED. Do you have any problem? Do you have any problem? You can ask me. Right? So here we have pair the Bluetooth module HC05 or HC06 from your phone. Right? From your phone, you have to pair. Right? After that, you have to open Remote XY app on your phone. This is the step-by-step guide. Right? I will upload it to our group, and then you can see simply and step-by-step following this, you can achieve. Right? Now we have to go to the Bluetooth on Remote XY app and connect your Bluetooth module. Right? Now you have to connect it in your Remote XY app. You can connect the Bluetooth module HC05. After you have connected, if you are connected successfully, right, then you should see the same user interface design on your phone, which you have designed before in your laptop. Right? So this is the case. Right. Now we have completed the Bluetooth communication, right, with the one LED bulb. Why we learn to turn on the LED bulb, only one LED bulb? Why we learn this one? Is this related to our robotic project, or that means our robotic car? Is it related? Can anyone tell me why we learn to turn on the LED bulb by using our smartphone? Why? Can anyone tell me? Yeah, just you can talk.
So because we have to control the
Sorry,
robot.
can you increase the sound?
So because we have to control the robot using Bluetooth.
Yeah, that is the case, right? Because we use LED bulb, right? So in Arduino, we use LED bulb as for indication purpose, right? LED bulbs for indication purpose, right? That means the system, right? That means that this is a experimental practice, right? So if you turn on the LED bulb by using our smartphone, right? Smartphone turns on LED means that means the smartphone can turn on the Arduino's that particular pin, right? Do you understand? If you turn on the LED bulb from the smartphone, that means you can turn on the Arduino's particular pin, right? Maybe the 13th pin, this particular case. But you can similarly turn on whatever the pin you like. fifth pin, sixth pin, first pin, whatever the pin you like, you can turn it on, right? So if you can turn it on these pins by using our mobile phone, we can also operate our robots. That means we can control this one. Let me give, right. Uh, that means the L298 motor controller, it has in 1, in 2, in 3, in 4 pins, right? So similarly, if you give the power to in 1 and in 3 pin, what will happen? By pressing the right front arrow, right? You can simply click and simply set up a front arrow in the remote XY, and then if you click this arrow, right, then the Arduino's first pin and the third pin will be activated. You can set up, right? After these two pins are activated, that means in 1 and in 3 are activated. After it is activated, you can operate, right? That is why we learn to turn on the LEDs. You can't say like that, right? You can't say we have learned only LED things and we can't think. You can't say like that, because you have to think. Uh, of course, no one tell to me like that, huh? Not I'm not bothering you, because no one tell to me that one. I'm just encouraging you to do more projects. That is why I'm saying, right. Um, you are very uh, interested person. You are very interested students I have in the class, because you people are trying in your homes, and you people are sending me the videos as well, right? So I really uh, enjoy while teaching you, right. Right. So if we learn to turn on the LEDs, that means we can turn on whatever the components, right? We can also, of course, we can deal with the servo motors and robo arms, etc., right. Right. Now we have a project. That means a homework, right? Design a Bluetooth control mobile robot which should be navigated through your mobile phone in forward, backward, left, and right directions. The system should have a toggle switch to power on or power off the entire circuit, right? So you have to have a toggle switch. After the toggle switch, you have to connect, right? You have to connect the system, and then you have to work on the components, right? So here we have, you have to submit the schematic diagram and the sketch or actual working video, right? This is what you have to submit, right? Before you come to the Saturday's class, you have to submit this project, right? No matter whether it works or not, you can try it, right. Right. So I'm going to tell you how to achieve this one, right? So here we have a car robot. You know that out 3 and out 4 should be connected to this motor. This one should be connected to this motor, right? For this motor, you have to connect this one to this one, right? That's up. Now we have to obtain a battery. That means a 12 voltage battery, right? On the positive terminal, you have to connect this one to positive, right? And on the ground terminal, you have to connect it to the ground terminal, right? Now we have to obtain another wire and connect it to the V in the Arduino, right? V in pin. On the ground pin, right, you have to obtain another jumper wire from this one and you have to connect it. Now the Arduino is powered up, right? Now we have to short circuit these two things, this one and this one, right? Now we have finally in 1, in 2, in 3, in 4 pins, right? Should be connected to, these pins should be connected to whatever the pin you like. Maybe Arduino's 1, 2, 3, 4 pins. Accordingly, you can connect. but you have to be aware about this first pin is for RX, this 0th pin is for TX, right? So you have to be aware about. So you can alternatively connect 2, 3, 4, and 5th pins, right? So you can connect these things, and you can have the Bluetooth module, and then you can obtain, right? So in Arduino, it has a 5 voltage and ground also. You can obtain a 5 voltage and give to the Bluetooth module. In the ground, you can obtain and connect it to the Bluetooth module. Now we have finally TX and RX pins, right? So in the TX and RX pin, you can connect this TX to RX, this RX to TX. That is the wiring. That is the wiring. Simple, right? So this is the wiring. Now it will look like this, right? So after you have wired up, it will look like this. You have a motor controller here, right? So you have four. If you are having 4 motors, you can connect like this, right? So you can parallel direction. You can change this. You have to obtain this motor and this one, this motor and this one, right? So this motor and this motor, and this motor and this motor. Now you have to obtain the joint from here, and you have to connect here, right? So this is how you have to connect these two things. Very simple, huh? Right. After that, you have to have this Bluetooth module and connect it to the Arduino. Now it's wired up. Right? This is the simple thing, right? So I have the wiring diagram also for you to see, right? So this is the wiring diagram, right? This is the wiring diagram. These two motors, right? So these two motors, you can obtain the 2 terminals and connect it to this one and this one, right? Now you can obtain another part. Motors should be connected like this in the motor controller, right? Now you have to obtain a 12 voltage and connect it here, and the ground should be connected to here, right? Now you have to obtain a 5 voltage and give it to the Arduino to power up, right? Now you have to also obtain from the battery's ground, right? And to the ground. That's up. Now we have to set up this one, right? So it is simple, right? In VCC, you can obtain 5 voltage from this one, this pink color one, right? Pink color one in the Arduino Uno, in the 5 voltage, you can obtain and connect it to the VCC terminal. On the ground terminal, you have to ground it. Simply, you can ground it to the Arduino. Right? Now you have to obtain TX pin that should be connected to the RX pin, RX 0th pin in the Arduino. And on the TX pin, it is connected to the first pin, right? This one is no need because the headlight LED bulb. If you want, you can work also, but this is not necessary. This is not essential, but if you want, you can put. Simply, you can obtain the 9th pin, and it is where we have turned. Sorry, we have turned it to the 3.3 and this one. Right? So that is simple. If you want, you can make this. If you don't want, you can just without. You can pursue without this. Right? Right. That's up. This is the wiring. Do you have any problem? Do you understand this wiring? Can you wire?
Sir, can you please send the wiring diagram to the group?
Yeah, I will send. I will send. No problem. I will send the wiring diagram. What you have to do is you just have to practice. Right? So they have wired up the pins 10th, 9th, 8th, in 1, into in 3 pins are wired. You can see that here. Here you can see that these are jumpered or short circuited. So if this is not short circuited, what you have to do is you have to obtain a female to female cable, right? So then you can simply connect these two terminals, and connect these two terminals. Now we have in1, in2, in3, in4 pins that those are connected to the Arduino. Right? This is very simple. Right. Right. Now we are going to look for the Wi-Fi point communication. Right. That is also similar. Right. That is also similar to what we have done so far. Right. Similarly, right. But for that, in Bluetooth module, we used HC05 or HC06, right? So, but here in Wi-Fi communication, we call it as a Wi-Fi module, right? This is Bluetooth module. This is Wi-Fi module. You can obtain uh, it in electronic shops, right? So this is called as maybe here ESP 8266, right? Uh, you have to obtain this part, right? So nowadays, right? So nowadays, there is another controller called as Node MCU. Node MCU, right? This particular controller, right? It is like similar to Arduino, but Arduino plus this one, this Wi-Fi module is called as a Node MCU board. That means in the Node MCU board, it has inbuilt Arduino plus this one, right? So if you want, you can obtain this one and you can work with these things, but these are somewhat advanced, right? So first you have to practice the Arduino and then you can work with these things, right? Right. That is for your information, right? Now get back to the lecture, right? So this is the Wi-Fi module we have, right? So in the Wi-Fi module, it is similar to that one, right? Similar to Bluetooth module. We have to give the power to the Wi-Fi module, right? So we have to obtain 3.3 voltage, right? In the Bluetooth module, we give 5 voltage, but here we have to give 3.3, right? So we have to obtain a 3.3 and then we have to give it to the VCC terminal, right? So rather than VCC, we also have to give power to the enable pin. That means ENA pin or enable pin. Because the VCC means we just turn on this device, right? We just turn on this one and we connect the ground to ground, right? That means this is the ground, right? That means we power up the device. Enable means, right? If you give enable signal, only the device will detect, right? So we can have a diagram here, right? So we give power, that means we give 5 voltage, but the device is not turned on, right? So if you give enable signal 0 and enable signal, then only the device will be turned on, right? So if you don't understand this one, just leave it, right? So and try to understand that we have also have to give enable signal to power up this one. So simply you can think like that because these are some advanced things, right? So if you don't understand these things, you can just think that we also have to give power to VCC and we also have to give power to enable. That's what you have to think, right? Right. Right. Here this wiring diagram is very simple to understand. VCC you have to give 3.3, right? And CH enable you have to give 3.3, right? And also you have to give reset also 3.3, right? Now we have to ground this one, this terminal to the ground. If you obtain this Wi-Fi module itself, it explains, right? Itself, it explains the wiring terminals, right? So you don't have to worry about these things, right? Now we have, that's all. In Bluetooth module, we have 4, right? In Wi-Fi module, we have 6. That's all, right? That means 1, 2, 3 VCCs and 1 ground and 2 TX and RX pins. No confusing, right? So there is no way to confuse because similar. These are simple things, right? What you have to do is you have to wire VCC, reset, and CH enable and to the ground, and you have to obtain RX and TX. But similarly, as Bluetooth modules, you have to connect TX to RX, RX to TX, right? That is simple, right? So I have connected. I have the wiring diagram with me also. You can simply connect this one, right? Right. This is it, right? Of course, you can connect without a reset button, right? So this one is reset. This one is VCC. This one is enable. You have to give power 3.3. You have to obtain the ground and TXRX. You have TXRX that are connected to the Arduino. Simple, huh? Right. Wi-Fi communication. Similar to that one also, right? Right. Now you have to open remote XY, select components that you want to use, similar to that one, right? Now you have to design the user interface to operate the system, how it should look like. That means the LED bulb. So whatever the components you like, you can place it there. Now you have to set up and get the source code, right? So before we move to that one, you have to consider this note, right? So you have to select, right? I will tell it on the app, right? So I have to click this one, right? I'm going to go back, right? So I'm going to create a new one, no save. Right? This is how it will look like when you open this for first time, right? Now you have to click new project, right? So in the new project, you have to set up, right? So you have to click this one, right? And for this, you have to scroll down and you have to select the Wi-Fi access point because we use Wi-Fi, right? For that, you have to select this Wi-Fi access point, right? Now we have to go to boards. Whatever the board you are using, you have to select, right? I'm currently using Arduino Mega, so I'm clicking this one. Now you have to click this question mark icon and you have to select this one. So this is named as ESP8266 Wi-Fi module. This is the one, right? So you have to click this one also, right? Now you have to select the platform. It is also selected as Arduino IE. That's all. Apply, right? Now we have applied that one, right? Now what we have to do is we have to drag and drop the components, right? You can play with these things, right? So indication, we have these things, right? Now what we have to do is you have to scroll down and select hardware serial, right? Similar to Bluetooth module, we have to select hardware serial, right? Now we have to select the pin. What is the corresponding pin that we are going to connect? 0 and 1 pin, right? So I'm going to select this one, but this is the problem, right? So in Bluetooth module, we selected this one, 9600. This is the difference, right? If you are using Wi-Fi module, you have to select this one, the last one, because in order to communicate with Wi-Fi communication, the bit rate will be high. That means the faster connection is needed to communicate with these things. That is why we are selecting this one, right? Now we have to set up the password. In Bluetooth module, no need to set up, but in Wi-Fi module, you have to set up, right? So name SSID. That means this is the when you are searching for your in your phone, similar to the Bluetooth module, you have to in your phone you have to search the Wi-Fi module, right? So this is the name, right? That means robotic project. Robotic project. If you name this as robotic project, right, then in your phone it will be named as robotic project Wi-Fi point, right? Right. So you can simply click open point also, right? Open point means no password is required, right? So if you want, you can set up the password, right? So I'm going to set up a password, right? So you can set up the password and make this as well, right? So that is simple, right? Now we have to select this element and then we can edit. You can select this switch button one, right? Right. Now we can play with these things, right? You can change the color size as well, right? These are simple things, but this is the thing you have to consider. Snap to pin. What pin it should be activated if you press this one, right? So if you press this one, what Arduino pin should be activated? You have to think, right? So I am going to set up this as the same 13th pin, right? That means if I press this one, the Arduino's LED bulb, the 13th pin LED bulb will be turned on. Right? That is what I select here. That's all. You have set up, you have configured all these things in the software, right? Now we have to, similarly, we have to obtain the source code, right? So I want to tell it to you one thing, right? These are advanced things, right? Whatever you are learning now, right? That means the Wi-Fi communication, Bluetooth communication, these are advanced things, right? Even university students are suffering to obtain this one because of these codes, right? What we have to do is you have to manually type this code, right? Manually you have to type these codes and this one, each and every code you have to manually type. But this software, this remote XY software is automatically coding for you, right? So that is why this is very simple for you, right? You can't think this is very hard, I can't do it, right? The hard thing is coding, right? But the software is giving free code to you, right? So you can obtain the code, copy, right? So then in the Arduino, you have to delete all the previous codes and then you can paste it. Simple. Only copy and paste, right? But if you are maybe if you are an electrical or software engineer, you can code these things, right? If you are interested in these things, you can learn those things as well. These are advanced things. I'm going to explain these things very simply, right? For all of the students to understand, right? So I'm explaining it simply, right? That is what my method, right? Everyone should understand, right? Um, Now we have coded, right? So simply, right, for that, we also have to install another thing, right? So get back to the slide, right? To upload the code, you need to download the remote XY library and setup. Similarly, if you don't have the remote XY library installed yet, you can download it, right? So now we have to disconnect the communication pins. That means you have to disconnect TX and RX pins. If you have already connected, you have to disconnect these pins, right? Then you can upload the code and then again you can connect, right? So after uploading, connect the communication pins. Now you have to connect the communication pins. That means TX should be connected to RX, RX should be connected to TX. Right? Now you have to download the remote XY code, the XY app. If you are already downloaded, you can ignore this step, right? So connect your phone Wi-Fi module ESP Note 1 or ESP Note 1S, right? So for that, I'm going to show it to you, right? So similarly, as Bluetooth connection, right? You have to go to your Wi-Fi, right? So you have to go to your Wi-Fi settings, right? In your Wi-Fi settings, these are the previous Wi-Fi Wi-Fi points available, right? So if you connect the ESP module and wire these things, then the name that we inserted in the remote XY, that is named as Robotics project, right? So that name will appear here, Robotics project. Now you have to select that one, right? And you have to insert the password. If you were set the password, if you set the password, you have to insert the password here, right? So then it will be connected, right? So this is how you connect your phone to the Wi-Fi module, right? So now after you have connected that one, you have to open Remote XY app. Right? In the Remote XY app, you can open this one, right? The plus icon, and then you have to go to the Wi-Fi point, right? So in the Wi-Fi point, right? So you can simply click connect. Right? So I don't have the ESP module installed here, right? So that is why it is not showing here error. If you have the Wi-Fi module and connected wired accordingly, right, then it will show here, right? Now what you have to do is you have to click connect. Then the same user interface, right? Which interface? This one. This interface. This interface in your phone will be shown, right? So if it is showing this particular button, that means you have connected successfully. Right? That's all. That's how you can connect the Wi-Fi with the component Arduino, right? So that is all about the theory parts. Now we have the project. Design a Bluetooth control mobile robot which should be navigated through your mobile phone in forward, backward, left and right direction. Right. Right. Do you have any problems? Do you have any questions or not understand anything? You can ask me. Right. Now I'm going to tell you one more thing, maybe additional tip for you. Right. In the remote XY, right? In the remote XY, you can simply go to the examples, right? And also you can go to the how it works section, right? So I'm going to go to examples, right? So in the examples, they have uh, predetermined, pre-set up the some of the projects, right? So you can simply test those projects as well, right? That means a smartphone control cardboard robot they have made, and temperature sensor output values on smartphone, smart power socket control your smartphone via Bluetooth. These are the systems that they have made already and uploaded to the system, right? First project LED, clicking the LED, right? And Arduino Robo using G sensor on your smartphone. This is similar to our homework, right? Yeah. Manage Arduino Robo, right? That means you can use the G sensor, right? So you can use G sensor. That means you can tilt your phone, right? So you can tilt your phone and operate the robot, right? That is called as G sensor. That means we call it gyroscope, right? We call it gyroscope sensor, right? You can use this. These are the wiring diagrams you can obtain, right, simply from the website, right? So you can simply click, drag and drop the components, and then you can make the code as well. You can paste the code, and they have also the video for you to understand, right? This is a small thing you can practice, right? So you can work with these things, right? They have examples also. That is what external tip for you, right? So another person asked the question, right? So what is the difference between Bluetooth controlling and Wi-Fi controlling, right? I showed it to you, right? Bluetooth control means we have to be nearby the device to control, right? We have to be nearby, right? That means within 10 meters. May some Bluetooth modules are having 100 meters, right? We have to be within that range in order to operate our robot, right? So if we use the Wi-Fi module, that means we can control the robot wherever we are. That means we can control whatever the place we are, right? That is the difference. We can control from anywhere. That is the basic difference. And also in the Bluetooth communication, the bit rate is small. That means the communication will be slower, right? Maybe disconnecting and all the issues. But in the Wi-Fi module, you have to have a strong connection, and then you can navigate, right? Right. Now, I also have to give you another tip, maybe another interesting stuff, right? So I told you that I we learned the basics of robotics, right? So by learning the basics of robotics and how to connect them, how to wire them, how the LEDs are turned on, how we can control the motors, what are the motors we have, all the things we learned, right? Now you have to make some projects, right? So while you are making project, there is a website called as project hub, right? There is a website, right? You can simply go to this website, and then you can do some projects, right? So create Arduino project hub, right? So they have tons of projects, right? Not one, two, they have more projects, right? These are the projects, right? Tons of projects, right? You can work whatever you like, you can make it, right? Whatever the components you have, or you can buy some components and you can make it, right? So I'm going to little bit explain this one. So all products, right? So what are the products you have to use, right? So you can simply select the products, right? So yeah, and you can simply go to the categories, right? So what is the category you are going to use? Maybe motors and robotics, you can click, right? And also you can select the difficulty as well, because there are some advanced projects also, right? So you have to select the easiest part first. You have to practice easiest things, and then you have to make the hardest things, right? So first start with easiest things, right? So then you can learn more, right? So these are the simple robots. They have also the videos of how we can make these things as well, right? So you can simply make these things, right? So you have my favorite is one is home automation, right? So personally, I do these kinds of works also, right? Home automation systems. That means if a person is coming, that means the lights will be turned on, right? So if we say that the fan should turn on, that means that the fans will be turned on, right? those are the home automation systems, right? So we can make it, right? So you can play around with these things, right? So for example, I can click this one, moisture sensor. Maybe they use the MATLAB software also. So I have to reduce the difficulty. So I have to select this one, easy difficult. Yeah, also this is an easy difficult. You can obtain whatever. Maybe we can select this one. Right? So if you select this one, that means they have all the materials that requires for the project, right? So they have the components list here, right? So these are the components you have to buy. So they have mentioned as Arduino Micro, but you can simply work on the Arduino Uno as well. That is why we learned, right? So we can use these motors and these things, right? So hot glue gun, you can use this one, and also the projects. Maybe they have the working video, may also have the arrangement and so all the other stuffs also, right? So you can simply play around with these things, right? You know how to make these things in real life because the coding thing we learned, right? So in coding, this is very easy. We learned. This is Arduino Mini, right? So instead of this one, if you don't have this one, you can simply use Arduino Uno as well. This is bad. Huh? This is bad because they didn't use the proper wiring, right? That means we have to set up a breadboard. So if you can set up a breadboard, so if you don't have a breadboard, what you have to do is you have to solder it, right? So, but for basic students, don't solder, just use breadboards. After you practice and learn, watch videos about how to solder and how to handle those things. Right? If you want, I will show you to you also how to solder and how to handle those things as well, if you want, right? So those are the things, right? So this is how it works. If you place your finger, that means the basket will be turned, will be open. Now you can put your dust or the garbage to the dustbin. Touchless automatic motion sensor, dry scale, right? So here in the downward section, right, you can obtain the code also, right? So you can simply select all the codes, and also you can copy this one, right? And also you can download this code as well, right? So you can download this code, and then you have to open Arduino, this one, right? So you have to open Arduino, and in the Arduino you have to paste the code, right? So while you are pasting, you have to delete all the previous components, the previous software codings, right? So you have to obtain this as a fresh, and then you have to paste it, right? After you have pasted the code, you can simply upload it to your Arduino and work, right? So do you have any problem? So do you have any problem? So here you can simply select all the components and paste the code, right? So then you can run the code, upload the code, and it will work, right? Right, right. Best of luck for your future projects, and I welcome you all the inventors to the class, right? So that's up to now, right? We'll meet you on the next class.